Most men believe that when a woman loses interest after sex, it's because the sex wasn't good enough. He moved too fast, or she got what she wanted and left. That explanation feels simple, comforting, and wrong. Because when attraction collapses after sex, it almost never has anything to do with sex itself. Sex is just the moment where something invisible becomes impossible to ignore. What actually happens is a psychological shift, a change in emotional leverage that most men trigger without realizing it. And the reason this pattern repeats so often is because men misunderstand what sex represents in a woman's emotional world. Sex doesn't create attachment by default. In many cases, it exposes whether attachment was ever forming at all. And if it wasn't, sex doesn't deepen attraction, it dissolves it. Before sex, attraction lives in uncertainty, curiosity, tension, projection. A woman isn't responding only to who you are, but to who her mind imagines you might be. Her nervous system is engaged. There's anticipation, there's emotional movement, but after sex, that ambiguity collapses. The question marks disappear, and once they do, something critical happens. Her nervous system she unconsciously asks one question, not verbally, not logically, but biologically. How do I feel now that access is complete? If the answer isn't regulation, grounding, or emotional coherence, interest doesn't grow. It drops. Because desire doesn't survive clarity unless clarity feels stabilizing. This is where most men get it wrong. They assume sex is the reward for attraction. In reality, sex is the test of it. Not a test of performance, but a test of emotional structure. If before sex you were a source of tension, mystery, presence, and polarity, and after sex you become emotionally diffused, overly available, or approval-seeking, her system feels the drop immediately, not as disappointment, but as deflation. Attraction requires contrast, and many men erase that contrast the moment sex happens. They relax into neediness, they overcommunicate, they seek reassurance, they unconsciously shift from grounded presence to emotional pursuit, and that shift is what her body reacts to, not the sex. A woman doesn't lose interest because you slept with her. She loses interest because after sex, you showed her that the version of you she was drawn to was temporary. Sex didn't create the change, it revealed it. Before sex, many men are contained. They're slower, more selective, more self-directed. After sex, they speed up, they text more, they explain more, they try to lock things down emotionally. That shift signals something dangerous to her nervous system. It says, the polarity is gone, the tension is gone, the emotional structure has collapsed. And when structure collapses, attraction doesn't evolve, it exits. This is why doing everything right after sex often produces the opposite outcome. More affection, more availability, more reassurance, more effort. Men think they're deepening connection. What they're actually doing is removing friction entirely. And friction isn't conflict, it's polarity. It's the space between two solid emotional centers. When that space disappears, desire stops. She doesn't feel chased, she feels responsible. And responsibility kills desire faster than indifference ever could. Another uncomfortable truth is this. Sex changes emotional power dynamics. Before sex, she is evaluating. After sex, she is recalibrating. If she senses that sex shifted the balance too far in her favor, that you now need more from her than she needs from you, attraction drops. Not because she wants dominance, but because she wants stability. A man whose emotional center moves closer after sex feels less anchored, not more. She doesn't consciously judge this. Her body registers it as pressure, and pressure triggers distance. This is also why women often pull away without explanation. They don't have language for this shift. They just know something feels off. The excitement is gone. The pull isn't there. And because nothing bad happened, they assume it must be internal. So they disengage quietly. Men then chase clarity, closure, reassurance, which only confirms the imbalance that caused the withdrawal in the first place. Sex also collapses fantasy. Before sex, her mind fills in gaps. After sex, there are fewer gaps. That's not a problem if what replaces fantasy is emotional grounding. But if what replaces it is emotional flatness or overfamiliarity, attraction fades. Familiarity isn't built by time. It's built by emotional exposure without structure. When a man overshares, overexplains, or emotionally unloads immediately after sex, he accelerates familiarity without trust. That creates emotional closeness without polarity. And closeness without polarity feels heavy, not bonding. Another factor men overlook is this. Women don't attach to pleasure, they attach to emotional regulation. If sex is intense but your presence afterward doesn't stabilize her nervous system, attachment doesn't form. Many men create excitement, but not safety. Others create comfort, but not polarity. Losing interest after sex often happens when sex exposes that imbalance. She realizes that while the chemistry was there, the emotional containment wasn't. And containment is what makes attraction sustainable. This is why some women stay attached after mediocre sex and leave after great sex. The body doesn't bond to performance. It bonds to how safe.com and coherent it feels afterward. If she feels emotionally scattered, uncertain, or overly pursued after sex, her system seeks distance to rebound. Distance becomes regulation, not because she dislikes you, but because her body needs relief from pressure it didn't consciously agree to. Men also misinterpret vulnerability. After sex, many men open emotionally in ways that feel honest but are actually They confess feelings, they seek reassurance, they imply expectations. Vulnerability without self-regulation feels like emotional leakage, and leakage creates anxiety. A grounded man can be open without leaning, present without grasping, warm without collapsing. Polarity. That distinction determines whether attraction deepens or dissolves. Here's the core principle most men miss. Sex doesn't create attraction. It amplifies whatever dynamic already exists. If attraction was built on tension, polarity, and emotional containment, sex strengthens it. If attraction was built on novelty, validation, or performance, sex exhausts it. And if attraction was fragile, sex exposes the cracks immediately. This is also why trying to fix things after she pulls away never works. The issue isn't communication, it's structure. You can't talk your way back into polarity. You can't reassure your way back into desire. Attraction after sex returns only when emotional balance returns, when pressure lifts, when your center stabilizes again, when you stop trying to secure an outcome and return to being grounded in yourself. Men who don't lose women after sex aren't doing anything dramatic. They don't change. That's the point. Their presence before and after sex feels the same. Calm, anchored, unmoved. They don't rush closeness. They don't withdraw either. They allow space without creating distance. Their consistency isn't availability, it's emotional coherence. And coherence is what the nervous system trusts. When a woman loses interest after sex, it's not rejection, it's correction. Her body is correcting an imbalance it detected, and the more a man chases, explains, or pressures, the more she needs to create distance to restore equilibrium. The paradox is this: the fastest way to lose attraction after sex is to try to lock it in. The fastest way to keep it is to remain internally unchanged by access. This doesn't mean being cold. It means being whole. Sex doesn't complete you. It doesn't validate you. It doesn't shift your center. And when she feels that, attraction doesn't collapse. It settles, deepens, stabilizes. Because she senses that intimacy didn't cost you your frame. If you understand this, sex stops being a finish line. It becomes a checkpoint, a moment where emotional structure is either confirmed or exposed. And once you stop confusing effort with value and closeness with attachment, women don't disappear after intimacy. They lean in, quietly, naturally, not because you held on tighter, but because you didn't. And that's why when a woman loses interest after sex, it has nothing to do with sex at all. It has everything to do with who you became once the tension was gone.